Well, Elon Musk is back at it again. This time, Elon Musk and the X Corporation, formerly known as Twitter, are suing the Attorney General of California. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the idea of beating up on California because it needs to be beaten up on. But boy, I got some reservations about this lawsuit. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break down what this lawsuit is. Then I'm going to go through what I think the weakest part of this entire lawsuit is, and quite frankly, when you listen to the weak part that I reveal, in my opinion, it turns the entire lawsuit on its head and makes Elon Musk seem like a weenie baby. But let's talk about the facts first and keep the bias out, so that way the Elon can do no wrong viewers still have something to watch for at least a few more minutes. All right, so the nature of action here. I've got the entire complaint here. I've gone through all of it, and I'm going to give you the gist of it. So basically, California at the end of 2022, right around a year ago, September of 2022, passed this law called Assembly Bill 587. Assembly Bill 587 requires that companies that are social media companies, which Twitter includes, post their terms of service dictated by the government and include terms about how content is moderated. That's Twitter's definition. The actual quote, though, and this is going to become very important, so listen to this quote super carefully because you'll see why it comes up importantly later. But anyway, social media companies shall submit, quote, a terms of service report, end quote, that includes, among other things, quote, a detailed description of content moderation practices used by the social media company for the platform, and information about whether, and if so, how the social media company defines and moderates hate speech, racism, extremism, radicalization, disinformation, misinformation, harassment, foreign policy interference, as well as blah, 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 other information. This is all defined under the Terms of Service Report definition in AB 587. Twitter, now the X Corp, is basically arguing that this violates the First Amendment of the Constitution because it basically requires Twitter determine what their policy is on, well, what is extremism? Like, if we say we're going to go peacefully protest at the, with the calls of Congress, is that extreme? Is that inciting violence? It basically makes Twitter have to take a stance. That's what Twitter is alleging. Twitter is alleging that they don't want to take a stance on what is a pronoun, what is a woman, what is a guy, a man, what is hate speech, what is racism, what is radicalization. And they're basically saying, look, first of all, we're going to use the Dormant Commerce Clause, which is just a fancy way of saying this is Congress's job, not yours, California. Once again, you're overstepping your boundaries, and we don't want you messing with our free speech. We don't want you defining how we should view the world. And so far, honestly, that sounds very reasonable. And X, to their defense, they say things like, look, ultimately, we do not want to fall victim to this complex dilemma, which has previously been defined as a criticism potentially of AB 587, which is that social media companies might end up being forced into too much moderation and therefore accusations of censorship and suppressed speech, or too little moderation, and then the platform risks fostering a toxic and sometimes dangerous community. Twitter goes as far as then taking some of the more left-leaning quotes and examples from what originally got this law passed, like quotes from Scott Wiener, Scott Wiener, different politician. Scott Wiener, he's a Democrat in California, and taking quotes from him suggesting that, oh, yeah, we want social media companies to be pressured into taking a stance on this, because if we pressure companies, social media companies, to take a stance on these different issues by law, then all of a sudden we make sure that they have a legal obligation to, quote, not become engines for violent hate speech. So far, this all sounds reasonable, right? Twitter's making the argument, look, we don't want to take a stance on this. We shouldn't be obligated to this because, A, that's Congress's job. B, we're not here to be your leftist weapon of liberal defense mechanisms for whatever it is that you want in terms of how you define hate speech and disinformation or misinformation. And so far, when you phrase all of X's arguments like this, it makes a lot of sense. They go through here and say, look, what is hate speech? What are gender programs? What about the fight over transgenderism? And again, what are the biological definitions supposed to be? Twitter's like, look, we just want to be a platform that's protected by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which basically says, look, we are a platform, not a publisher. When you are a platform, you have immunity from the posts of others as long as you follow the law in basically moderating things that violate the law where necessary. A publisher is like a newspaper where they can kind of choose what they post, and that limits a publisher's immunity because they have choice rather than having like a user go post whatever they want. Then if a user violates the law, it's not Twitter that's at fault, it's the user that's at fault. That's basically Section 230 in a very simple recap. And I'm trying to recap all of this because I really want to keep it simple for you, because I want to get to where I think the weak part of this is. So let me make sure I haven't missed anything here. So Twitter is arguing that if they don't submit their essential statement on content moderation, then they're going to be faced with draconian fines up to $15,000 in violation per day. They complain that AB 587 imposes tremendously burdensome requirements on social media companies, requiring them to keep records about potentially hundreds of millions of content moderation decisions made on a daily basis. And it wouldn't be fair to require newspapers to outline how they should reply to editorial pieces, because that would take away the editorial freedom of newspapers. And these are just the arguments that they're stitching together. Now, what I'd like to do is go back to the first page of the actual complaint once we get past the heading letter, which basically Elon Musk hired 4 probably expensive attorneys, Mr. Kutzenberg and Abrams and Rosbrook and Cole out of New York, who are going to be working pro hoc vice in California under the stewardship of attorneys Warren and Baker. Anyway, that's just the first page. So the real first page, where the meat of the matter is, over here, I think there is a big weakness, and I don't know if they're just expecting the judge to roll on this or the attorney general not to understand it, but if they watch this video, they're going to see the weakness. And I'm going to explain it to you right after I mention that, did you know you can now get licensed financial advice from myself and the team? All you have to do is go to stackhack.com, check it out before prices go up, and keep this in mind, we are expecting to combine all of the courses into something new called the Profit Portal. That means the entry price into the courses is going to be a lot more expensive. So, if you want to get the best price on the courses, now's the time to do it. We expect the bundle, where everything's all in one, to launch on the 15th, and the total price is going to be more. We expect it to be greater than what you could get now by bundling up for the courses or emailing us if you'd like your custom bundle at staff@meetkevin.com. So basically, if you want to make sure you get lifetime access to those course member live streams, updates from me, Q&A with me, personal perspective from me on building wealth in real estate, stocks, or making more money, make sure to check out those programs and Building Your Wealth link down below for next Friday. Okay, so what's the weakness, and why do I think Elon's being a weenie baby here? All right, first of all, remember how Elon, when he bought Twitter, he's like, we're going to have transparent content moderation. Bro, you are literally now filing a lawsuit complaining about how you need to have transparent content moderation. Fact, case, and point. In your very own complaint that you wrote, your attorneys wrote, in the first paragraph, you say, we are basically upset that we have to provide a terms of service report that includes our content moderation policy and, keywords here, information about whether and if, how so, the social media company defines and moderates hate speech. Okay, but wait a minute. Information about whether and if. Well, here's a simple one, Elon. All you have to do is put your terms of services report together and say, look, we moderate where the law says we need to, but beyond that, we actually don't define these things and we don't moderate these things. All California wants to know is your stance, Now, obviously, I'm not an attorney, even though we have an in-house legal counsel who sent me these all of these documents and the exhibits, and I've been going through reading these on my flight back from NorCal. My opinion, as not an attorney here, my opinion is that Elon is probably trying to skirt the requirement to post his terms of services because he's trying to do two things. Number one, he's trying to delay posting the terms of services because they don't have the staff yet to review the complaints and actually manage the terms of services that they would post because they fired too many people. Second thing is, they might get backlash if they indicate at all, yeah, look, we have to moderate where the law is, and then they're going to get backlash from their base, which has definitely started leaning a little bit more to the right. So, the next thing is, if Elon can push this up to the Supreme Court of the United States and argue, hey, look, here I am, I'm Elon, I'm fighting, quote-unquote, the libtards of California, then it makes him, again, appeal to his base, right? That's basically what his base has become. And I'm trying to present this as neutral as possible. You might not know, hopefully you know, because I ran for governor in California. I call myself a 49, 51 JFK-style Democrat, which means I really try to look at everything from a middle, non-biased point of view. And quite frankly, I believe that Elon is extremely stressed. I think that Elon has seen his ad revenue decline 60%, which he himself disclosed. He's blaming anything and everyone that he can. He doesn't have the staff to moderate even the stuff he has to by law. He doesn't want to put together a terms of service report because it's going to piss people off, even though it's not that big of a deal. Just say you don't have to, or you don't as a company define these things. It literally, you wrote it yourself. If you do, disclose how you define. Well, then just say you don't. So maybe there's more to it, and maybe I need to go deeper into this. And that's why I'm making this video, because I really am curious about your opinion about this. Am I being too anti-Elon here? Keep in mind, like, my ETF is heavy in Tesla. I'm a big Elon fan. I hope to get Starlink on this jet one day. I'm a big Elon fan. I think what he's doing is great, but I think he's being a little bit of a weenie baby here. And again, I want to read this to you one last time, just so you can really think about it when you leave a comment. I'm going to read you word for word their section 2 here. AB 587 requires large social media companies like X Corp to post terms of service dictated by the government and include terms about how content is moderated on their platforms, the terms of service requirement, and submit on a semi-annual basis to the California Attorney General a terms of service report that includes, among other things, a detailed description of content moderation practices used by the social media company for that platform. B, that was A. B, information about whether and if so how the social media company defines and moderates hate speech or racism, extremism, radicalization, disinformation or misinformation, harassment, and foreign policy interference, as well as information and statistics about actions taken by the social media company to moderate these categories of content. Well, my simple thing here is our content moderation policy is we moderate what the law is, and we'll respond to the requests for moderation within 30 days. Whatever. If they have a problem with that, let them comment. Well, we want it to be 14 days. And do we have a policy on hate speech, racism? Nope. Just whatever the law is. Leave it there. So I don't know. This lawsuit feels weenie. I almost wonder if these attorneys, especially since 4 of them are from New York, are like, hey, you want to do a lawsuit against California? We'll do it all on contingency. Like, basically, sign us up with an attorney in California. We'll do it all from New York. We'll do all the work. And we just want to get the PR. You'll get the PR benefit of basically complaining about California, which is really popular to do in the rest of the country. And you don't even have to pay anything because, well, you guys don't have any money anyway because you guys are losing money hand over fist. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm reading this totally wrong. But that's my opinion. Curious to hear what your opinion is. Leave a comment, link down below. Make sure to check out StackHack by going to stackhack.com for licensed financial advice and meetkevin.com for those courses on building your wealth. See you soon. Thanks. Bye.